Good morning everyone. I am Dr. Sabyasachi Pramanik, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Haldia Institute of Technology. Today I am here to discuss on the topic of software development lifecycle, or in short it is called the SDLC. So what is the SDLC? So actually SDLC will map the various activities performed on the software product from the beginning of the software development to its retirement, that is at the end of the software development. So different life cycle models are there, and that is necessary, and it consists of various activities and phases. During the life cycle, more than one activity may be also carried out. Now the SDLC is actually the process of developing any software product. So SDLC includes the following, which can be shown in the diagram. So the first stage or the step of the SDLC is the requirement analysis. Then comes defining the requirement analysis. Then comes the designing phase, then the coding, testing, deployment, and then the maintenance. So what is the utility of the SDLC? The development team who are involved in a particular project, they must determine or fix a suitable lifecycle model for any particular plan or for any software that they want to develop. Without any exact software lifecycle, the development team cannot proceed in a systematic way. When a team is developing a software product, there must be clear understanding between the representatives or the software developers, that is when to do and what to do. Otherwise the entire software development will be in a chaos and there will be a total project failure. Now let's explain this point with the help of an example. Suppose in a development team various modules are there, and the project manager has assigned some particular and the project manager has actually assigned a particular module to a group of team members. So if the team member doesn't know where to start, where to end, whether the coding phase will be started first, whether the design phase will be started first, there will be a complete chaos and there will be no guidance to the software developers. For this there is the necessity of SDLC. So without any SDLC, the entire project will totally be a failure. Now what are the stages of the SDLC? Like in the diagram we have seen, the first stage or the first phase is the planning and requirement analysis. So what is requirement analysis? This is the most important stage or phase of any SDLC. So what is happening in this phase? The senior team members of any software development project, they will actually discuss from all the stakeholders what things need to be done, what are the requirements of the project, means whether the project will be for the financial domain, whether the project will be for the biotechnology domain, whether it will be in the field of medical analysis or medical diagnosis, whether the project will be for any smart cities or agriculture. So the senior team members will actually discuss this with all the stakeholders. Then comes the planning for quality assurance. So what is planning? Planning means what to do, when to do, and how to do. So here also the risks associated with the projects will also be identified. What risks might creep in during the running time of the project? So what do you mean by risk? Risk is nothing but it is unwarranted situation that might creep in the midway of the project. Suppose if I am riding a bike and I am going from Haldia to Kolkata, so there may be many risks in the midway. There may be accident, my fuel may be empty, isn't it? If I don't wear a helmet, a cop may catch me. So various kinds of risks are there. So I have to analyze the risks beforehand, before starting of the project. And if I find any unwarranted situation during the runtime of the project, how should I cope up with the risk? Means identification of the risk and how to minimize the risks. So this is a very big issue, and these all sorts of jobs are done in the stage 1, that is planning and requirement analysis. Here in this phase, the business analyst and the project managers will set up a meeting with the client. With the client means for whom my organization or my team members are making the project. Suppose if I want to make a project for a Canara Bank, it will be a financial software. So I, being the project manager, and my organization managers, they will sit up with the client, discussed all the issues regarding what? Issues regarding what the customer or the client wants. See, in any banking software, there are various modules, isn't it? What are the modules? There can be transaction, isn't it? If we want to debit some money from the ATM, so this is a module of the Canara Bank for any particular person who has an active account. Also the loan facility, if anyone, any individual wants to avail any loan, whether it is a car loan, whether it is a bike loan, isn't it, or a home loan. So this is another module or another functionality of the software. Now if I want to also open a fixed deposit account, so that is another module. So these different modules, what will be the modules in that particular software, that will be decided in the meeting with the clients, isn't it? So I, being the project manager, and my organization will sit with Canara Bank officials, and together we will discuss what kind of software needs to be made. Now once the requirement is understood, once we get that what needs to be done, then we will go for the creation of the SRS, that is the software requirement specification. This is a text file. It is a documentation actually. So what does this SRS contain? It contains all the requirements. This is a treaty between my organization and my client for whom I am making the software. So why treaty? So what will be there in the SRS? The SRS consists of the available or the software and the hardware resources that needs for the entire project, for developing the entire project. Various kinds of software tools may be required, isn't it? Any kind of software tools may be required, hardware resources may be required. So what resources may be required, that may be stated in the SRS. What should be the size of my team, the development team, isn't it? So how many software developers should be there, that is stated in the SRS. What will be the cost of the software? What will be the time duration to complete the project? So all sorts of issues are written and documented in the SRS. Also the design phase, what kinds of diagrams are required prior to develop the codes. Many kinds of diagrams are required, like the ERD, that's the entity relationship diagram. It may be the DFD, that is the data flow diagram. It may be the activity diagram. So what kinds of diagrams are required to help the developers go through an easy process of coding, that will also be specified. What are the tables required? Because for any database we require many tables. So what should be the table names, what should be the columns of each table, what should be the primary key. So every technical specification is maintained or stated in the SRS. Next is the stakeholder. So what is the stakeholder? I told that when we want to develop a project, being a project manager, I will first talk to all the stakeholders. So various kinds of stakeholders are there. One is the internal stakeholder, one is the external stakeholder. So who are the internal stakeholders? Stakeholders means the stakeholders of the organization for whom I am working. First is the project manager, he is the team lead, isn't it? So he is the team lead. Then comes the organization for whom I am working. Then the funder who is funding the project. Also the external stakeholders includes the customer, that is the client for whom I am making the software, or the users of the software. Suppose there are many account holders for any financial software. Suppose the Canara Bank, everyone has, most of them has the net banking facilities, isn't it? So who are the customers? So the customers will also be grilled what kind of software or facilities they want. So they are also one of the external stakeholder of the software development project. Also the government. Why the government is involved? Various kinds of taxes are involved, isn't it? So if we want to run an organization, we have to give tax to the government. So the government should be notified. Also the supplier. Who are these supplier? Supplier means they will supply the hardware resources and the software resources, or any kind of tools, or any kind of office equipments. So these supplier also plays an important role in the software development. So the next stage is the defining requirements. So once the requirement analysis phase is done, the next is to represent and document the software requirements and get them accepted from the project stakeholders. So this is actually done through the SRS. Whatever treaty that we do, whatever things we discuss, that will be actually signed and documented. So this is defining the requirements. What will be our requirement? Next is designing the software. So what do you mean by designing the software? Designing software means after we know what the requirements are, after a long analysis, we will go for design of the projects. So design a project means we will get the inputs from the earlier steps or the earlier stages, and we will try to build the software for the client or the customer. So what kind of activities are done in the designing phase? In the designing phase, we will go for the yard diagram, we may go for the DFD, that is the data flow diagram, we may go draw the activity chart. So various kinds of diagrams are done in this designing phase. Why this design is important? Because after this comes the coding phase. So if a coder does not know what to do, how will it proceed? So it's better to represent diagrammatically prior to the coding phase, so that the coding or the development will be easy for any software engineer. So for a software engineer, if the diagrams are ready at his hand, he will understand what to do, what tables to make, what will be the column names, what software needs to be used, what should be the coding, what should be the functionalities, how the functionalities will interact with one another. So this is very important. If designing the software is not done, the coding phase will be a very hectic task if the proper designing phase is not done. Next comes the developing the project. This is the most important phase of any kind of SDLC. So here you can understand mainly coding is done, writing the codes. And how will the software developers write the code? They will actually write the codes by following some guidelines that is prescribed by the management and also their project manager. The project manager will guide them what to do and how to do. So the developers will use some compilers, maybe they use interpreters or some debuggers also. Next, the stage is the testing. So once the development phase is done, then comes the testing phase. So during the testing, what happens? Here various kinds of testings are involved, mainly the unit testing. What is unit testing? Unit testing is each module of the software is tested individually. What is integration testing? Integration testing means all the modules, whether they are interacting with each other properly or not, so that there is a synchronization between them. That is meant by integration testing. And what is acceptance testing? Acceptance testing is that whether the software is accepted or not after the entire testing phases. Various kinds of other testing methodologies are also there: alpha testing, beta testing, white box testing, black box testing. So various kinds of testing methodologies are there, and they are mainly the software developers mainly use the various kinds of tools like the Windrunner, Load Runner. So these kinds of tools are used in the testing phases. So once the software is tested and no bugs are found, or the software is completely errorless, then the software is certified, and then the software may be released. So when the software needs to be released, the team members or the project manager with his team members may go to the client side, install the software and show how the software is running. So this is called the deployment. Being a project manager, I am deploying the entire software in the client side. So after I show them how the software works, then the organization will start using that software, or the users or the end users will actually use the software. So it may happen when the end users are using the software, there may be some failures, some bugs, database connectivity may be in a complete ruin. So then comes the maintenance phase. So once the client starts using the development system or developed system, then the real issue comes and requirement needs to be solved from time to time. Means if suppose after 2 days the users are saying that I am facing this problem, so obviously I have handed the software to them, so it is my responsibility to check what is really happened, to care of what problem is being taking place, and to fix those issues. So that is called the maintenance phase, where being the project manager or the if I am developing the software, that is my duty to show the client what, or to fix what kind of issues may creep in. Now the SDLC model. So this software development life cycle, so various kinds of SDLCs are there. Okay, it's not that only one particular type of SDLC is there. The first and the simplest SDLC is the waterfall model. So Winston Royce, he actually introduced this waterfall model in the 1970s. This waterfall model has actually 5 phases. So what are the phases? The 5 phases are requirement analysis and specification, the design phase, implementation and unit testing, integration and system testing, and operation and maintenance phase. So what are these phases and why this model is called the waterfall model? You know, when water is falling from the hill, from the top of the hill or mountain, it follows a cascade like shape, like this, isn't it? A step like shape, it's falling like this. So in that sense, this model is called, or this SDLC is actually called the waterfall model. Now the first phase says that it is the requirement analysis and the specification phase. So what is the aim of this phase? The aim of this phase is to know the exact requirement of the client and to document them properly. I know what the customers want, what should be the features of the software, what should be the functionalities of the software, how they will run, what functionalities they will cover, and then I will try to make the software. And this is all documented in the SRS. So SRS is a part of the requirement analysis phase. Then comes the design phase. So as we have already discussed that in the design phase, what requirements should be gathered, that is actually documented. The design phase, I told, it is consisting of various kinds of diagrams, mainly the ERDs, the DFDs, the activity chart and the activity diagram. So these sorts of diagrams are drawn. Here also specific tools and softwares are used, mainly the rational rows. It is a proprietor of the IBM, this software, and also a smart draw. So with the help of these softwares we can develop some diagrams which will be handy to the software developers. Then the third stage is the implementation and the unit testing. So this is actually the coding phase, and here comes the unit testing. Unit testing means one small module. Suppose, what is the module? Suppose the loan facility in any bank. You can take a loan online. So this loan facility of the bank is one module. Opening a fixed deposit may be another module, isn't it? So these are some modules. So unit testing means one module that is being tested separately, that is called unit testing. Then comes integration and system testing. This is the most crucial testing phase. Why? Because at the end integration testing happens, where we will check that whether all the modules interact with each other properly or not, because all the functionalities of the software, they are interdependent on one another, isn't it? They are interdependent on one another. Because for an example, if I want to debit some amount from the ATM machine, it will always check whether the amount that I want to withdraw, whether it is available in my account or not. So there is the interdependency between the modules. So these kinds of testing will happen for any software development phase, and that is called integration and system testing. Then comes the operation and the maintenance phase. Maintenance is the task performed by every user once the software has been delivered to the customer, it has been installed and it is operating. So maintenance actually comes at the last phase, and this software maintenance is one of the crucial phase. And every software organization, if they want to make a product for any other firm or organization, always they will try to go for the maintenance of the software. So when to use SDLC waterfall model? So we have designed, or we know what the waterfall model is. So when will we use the SDLC waterfall model? When the requirements are constant and not changing regularly. Means previously we know what requirements are there to create the software or to develop the software. And when these requirements are constant, means when the requirements are not changing in the midway of the software development process, only then we can use the waterfall model. Why? Because if the requirements change in the midway of the development process, then there will be a complete disaster, because already we have gone through the requirement analysis phase, then the coding is done. After the requirement analysis comes the design phase, that is complete, coding complete. Then we find no, the requirement was not as such. What will happen? Time has been invested, money has been invested. Suppose a 9 months project, 5 months already over, we are in the midway of the coding phase. We find that no, whatever requirement or whatever we had planned initially is not okay. What will happen? Time invested, money invested. So we cannot go to the earlier phase to make up the things. Already there is a disaster. So we will use the SDLC waterfall model when the requirements are not changing in the midway of the project and it remains constant throughout the project. We will also use the waterfall model when the project is short. When the project is of less duration, then we can use the waterfall model. Also, we will use the waterfall model when the software is not complex in terms of functionalities, means not a huge software. If it is a simple software or a mid-size software, then we can go for waterfall model. Also, we will use the waterfall model when the software resources and the tools are not changing. Whatever tools and the software resources we had planned initially, if it remains fixed during the entire development phase, then we can go for the waterfall model. But if the tools and the software resources we change during the midway of the project, then this waterfall model is not suitable, isn't it? Because we have started using Python, we have started using some tools, then we find no, this is not the proper software, this is not the proper tool. What will happen? Already 5 months time over, money has been invested, so we cannot go to the earlier phases. Also, the software, we will also use the waterfall model when the software and the hardware resources are well prepared and available to use. In the midway of the project, we find that what software we had planned, that we cannot use. So this will be a complete disaster. So if we fix initially that yes, we need these kinds of tools, this kind of hardware resources, this kind of manpower, only for that reason or in those circumstances we can use the waterfall model. What are the advantages of the waterfall model? This model is simple to implement. It is a very simple model, and the resources that are used in this model, it is also very less. Another advantage is that the requirements are simple and they remain unchanged during the entire project development. The requirements are very simple, no complex requirements are there, it is a small size project, no complexities are there in the functionalities, so then we can use the waterfall model. Also, one important advantage is that the start and end phase or the start and end point for each phase is fixed, isn't it? When we are starting with the requirement analysis, suppose the project manager tells that in the waterfall model the requirement analysis will go for 30 days or 15 days, so this is fixed. And once the next stage, that is the design phase starts, we cannot go back to the earlier phase, because this design phase, the project manager, he may tell that you get 15 days time for the design phase. So the start and end points for each phase should be fixed, that is fixed in this model. So this is one of the great advantage for this kind of waterfall model. The release date is known well beforehand. We know the time duration of the project, how long the project will be completed, in which time the project will be completed. We also know the final cost. It can be determined before the project starts. So we know the cost before the start of the project. We also know the how much duration will the project continue. Next is the disadvantage. Next is the disadvantage of the waterfall model. So here the risk factor is very much high. The risk factor is high for complex projects. So if we are going for any complex project, we will not use the waterfall model. Here the model cannot accept the changes in requirement during development. What does this mean? We are in the development stage. We are already going for the coding, and we find that whatever requirement we had specified, there are some mistakes. But we cannot accept the change right now. if you want to make the change in the requirement, already there will be a disaster. So we cannot change the requirement during the development phase. So it also becomes tough to go to the earlier phase. For example, if we are in the coding phase, we cannot shift or go back to the requirement phase. Another disadvantage is that here testing is done at a much later stage. After the development comes the testing stage. So already the hard work is done, then you are testing, and if it is found that there are plenty of bugs, what will happen? The entire project is a disaster, a failure, because the testing phase is done at a very later stage. Next is the spiral model. So what is spiral model? Spiral model is another kind of SDLC, and that is used for risk handling. So here you can see the pictorial representation of the spiral model. It consists of 4 phases or 4 quadrants. Now this spiral model looks like a spiral with many loops. So here you can see this is the spiral. The exact number of loops of the spiral is unknown. How many loops will be there in the spiral model, that is totally unknown initially or before the start of the project. It depends on the experience of the project manager to determine during runtime how many loops will be there in the spiral model. So the project manager has a great role in determining or calculating the number of spirals, and he is doing at runtime based on the experience he has. The exact number of phases needed to develop the product can be varied by the project manager. So how many loops will be there, how many phases will be there, that is determined completely by the project manager, and he dynamically determines the number of phases. So the radius of the spiral, so radius means the distance from the center to this. So this is actually the cost of the project. See here, as we are moving, the time is going on, time is increasing, so the radius is the cost. So here less cost is incurred on the project, but here more cost is incurred on the project. Here maximum cost for this diagram, isn't it? So the radius actually shows the cost spent on the project. And what is the angular dimension? The angular dimension represents the progress made so far in the current phase. So suppose this is the angle, this is the angle, so this is the angular dimension, this is the work done in that particular phase. So this angle is less, this angle is more, so here less work done, more work done. So angular dimension will actually represent how much progress has been done in that particular phase or in that current phase. Now each phase of the spiral model is divided into 4 quadrants, as we have seen from the diagram. So the first phase is the objective determination and identify alternate solution. So the requirements are gathered from the clients and objectives are identified, they are analyzed at the start of any project or any phase. Then so we have got n number of solutions to go for the problem. Now alternative solutions are found out. So we have n number of solutions, any other solutions we will try to find out. So these solutions or these requirement gathering are denoted in the first quadrant. They are shown by the first quadrant. So here this identify and resolve risks. The second quadrant here comes all possible solutions are evaluated. So we know these are the possible solutions. Those solutions will be evaluated and we'll find the best solution, which is the best solution to tackle the risks. Then the risks associated with that solution are identified and the risks are resolved. So at the end of this quadrant, the prototype is built for the best possible solution. So prototype means we'll make a toy-like implementation at the end of the second quadrant of any software that is being developed. Then the third quadrant is the develop next version of the project or the product. So during the third quadrant, the identified features are developed and verified through testing. So in the third quadrant, what happens is that the features are developed and verified through testing. And at the end of this third quadrant, the next version of the software is available. So what comes at the end of the third quadrant is that some toy-like implementation of software has been developed, and in the fourth quadrant we'll go for the customer evaluation. We'll show the software to the clients. They will give the feedback by using the software. What are the loopholes of the software? So these four quadrants are used repeatedly. One loop, four quadrant. Second loop, another four quadrant. Third loop, another four quadrant. And hence the enhancement of the software are done. At the end of the first four quadrants, what happens? A software has been developed. A miniature software has been developed. Some functionalities are there. At the end of the second four quadrants, or in the second spiral, again the software has been enhanced much more. So again in the third loop or the end of the third cycle, the software will be enhanced more, so that at the end the final product will be obtained. Now risk handling in spiral model. What is risk? Risk is nothing but it is an adverse situation that might affect the completion of a software project. The most important feature of the spiral model is that how to handle the risks, how to handle the unknown risks that might creep in while developing the software. So what is the prototyping model? We have told that there is a kind of prototype that has been developed at the end of the second quadrant. So what is prototyping? So prototyping, it is actually a type of risk handling, but the risk must be identified completely before the start of the development work. So in real life, the project risk may occur after the development work starts. So in that case, we cannot use a prototyping model. In each phase of the spiral model, the features of the products are updated and analyzed, isn't it? Because we are going for a toy-like implementation, we have made some developments. At the end of the next spiral, we are going for much more development. At the end of the third cycle, again enhancement done. So in this way, the development of the software continues. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a nice day.